Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Rob, Adam, and Robbie here with you today. If you have not subscribed to the channel already, please do. Please like the video and all of that stuff. If you want to join in the conversation, super chats will be read out. So send those in. We're going to reflect a little bit on the Packers game yesterday, such as it was, and then look ahead to what happens next going into the start of the season. So let's quickly touch on the game yesterday because it was not a spectacle. It was one of the worst things that I've watched in a long time. Robbie, did you see the game? And you didn't see the game. Okay.
No,
Adam, did you see the game?
Well, I was going to say it was literally not a spectacle for me at all because I did not make it a spectacle for my eyes as I did not watch a down because preseason's bad enough, let alone the third game when no one's playing. So, our dear leader, Rob, it's on you, mate.
Okay. I watched one play. I did. I watched one play.
I was too many.
Yeah. It was the interception, actually, that I didn't think was an interception. That's the only play I literally saw. I was in Ohio all weekend and I missed it. So.
Okay. So basically the Packers played their starters apart from Jordan Love, who is injured. So you had the Packers starters against Seattle's second and third stringers. And that played out exactly how you would expect, to the point where all of the momentum and the scoreboard was in the Packers' favor. The game was a total non-entity. It did not feel like a fair fight. It didn't really feel like anybody was learning anything from it other than, hey, Seattle's bottom 20 to 30 players on their roster that aren't going to make the roster, the final 53-man cut, are not good enough to play in the NFL, which is hardly a huge shock. And it did feel legitimately like a complete waste of time. Like Matt LaFleur, for some reason, was all amped up. I don't really know why, because they were playing backups to backups. And yet he was getting very carried away, getting excited, getting into the referees when that interception was given, stuff like that. The Packers may just come out of it and think, well, we just wanted to feel good about ourselves going into the Lions game in 2 weeks. I don't really know how you assess anything from their behalf, because again, you had the starters for a decent chunk, and then the second guys against either the backups or the third stringers for Seattle. And there was very few positives to take from a Seahawks perspective. Jared Ivey was definitely a positive because he just seemed to be around the ball a lot on the defensive line. He had a decent game. I thought J.R. Singleton did pretty well as a defensive tackle. Apart from that, it was very, very hard, aside from if you're going to generously give that interception to Tyler Carter, because it is a great play. If it was a catch, which I don't think it was, as Robbie said, there's very little to get from it. And I think a lot of people were excited and looking forward to seeing Jalen Milroe play. I have to say, with the caveat of, there's a few caveats that come with this. Clint Kubiak did not call that game. They gave the quarterback coach the play calling duties for that game as a bit of an experience for him. So this was not a Clint Kubiak offensive game. They did not have anything remotely close to an NFL offensive line on the field. So he had very little time to throw. He was playing against better players than he would otherwise expect to in a third preseason game. But overall, he struggled. He looked unspectacular. He looked uncomfortable. I think the very least you kind of expected from him was, okay, maybe when he's standing in the pocket playing conventional football, he may struggle a little bit here because he's a young player and he's not quite mastered the offense yet. But actually, I was more frustrated watching him when he got out of the pocket because he just felt so indecisive. And you did not see difference-making athleticism. When he got out into space and you're thinking, right, now he's going to take off. Now he's going to make a man miss. We actually saw, the Green Bay quarterbacks doing that a lot more, like improvising, being creative, finding a way to make things happen. And Milroe didn't really do that. Now, he had some decent throws. He had one throw on the run to the sideline, which was good. He had a decent pass to Marcus Valdes-Scantling. The touchdown throw was good. So it's not all bad. But I just felt very underwhelmed watching him play. And I suppose, given that neither of you watched the game, I'll jump straight to that topic, Robbie. I wrote about this today. On Milroe, to me, he just doesn't quite have it. Now, that doesn't mean you write him off straight away and say this is a player who's never going to start. But I think generally speaking, you kind of get a feel as to whether someone's got starter potential in the NFL when they play in preseason. I didn't really watch that yesterday and think, yep, in 2 or 3 years' time, this guy's going to be an NFL starter. And for that reason, I think the Seahawks, I'm not that chuffed about this because I was quite looking forward to maybe not having to watch quarterbacks all year. I am going to spend a lot of time watching quarterbacks during this college football season because I still think there's a chance they're going to have to draft one next year. We'll see how Sam Darnold gets on. But I just thought, to me, I wanted to see a bit more from Jalen Milroe yesterday, even if that was just as a runner and as a thrower on the run, and we didn't get that. So I thought that was a little bit disappointing yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see the game, so I don't really know how he played, but my expectation would be to temper the expectations for him, and this is a guy who's just give him a couple reps here and there within the offense during preseason just to let him kind of cook. I mean, the thing with I kind of try to think about like the way Jordan Love came out, and everyone was like, remember how bad he was in preseason and how bad he looked, and everyone was like, what a waste of a pick. And he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 or 4 years, and I would have never predicted he was going to be as good as he is. And he's a pretty good quarterback. So there's an opportunity for him to sit and grow and be that guy. I think it's way too early for us to decide that. And the coaching staff will have a better idea, obviously day in, day out during practice. I don't think it's going to stop them from drafting a quarterback should the opportunity come. But I think this is a guy that you don't have the expectation that he's going to sit there and come in and start next year, which is good. I was worried that may be the thing that happens this year if Donald plays a bad game and people want to get Milroe in right away. And it's going to be a lot like what happened to Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, all the talent in the world, but can't quite put it together because he just needs more time to develop. You have to let some of these guys develop. He has the tools. I mean, you've said it before. He throws one of the best deep balls in the game. I mean, he's got a phenomenal arm. He's a great runner. He may not have shown it yesterday. Again, I didn't get to see the game, but as you were saying, it sounds like the Packers played their starters versus our second and third string players. Might not be a good test of maybe kind of the player he really is.
Absolutely, and again, I think I said this at the start, but I'll say it again if I didn't. I'm not writing him off. This is definitely not me saying Jalen Milroe cannot start in the NFL. He is never going to work out. They've just used a late third round pick on somebody who is not going to be a player at the next level. I'm not writing him off after one preseason game. I think, Robbie, what you said there is correct. I think it will pour a bucket of ice cold water over the people who are thinking, hey, maybe he should be the number 2 quarterback, or hey, if Darnold has a rough stretch, that give the ball to Jalen Milroe, he can come in and do this thing. Like, he is so far away from that. The problem is, and this is always the problem with the NFL, is that what happens now is Darnold will get all of the first team reps. Milroe is not going to have anything to do really except support Sam Darnold for the next few months. They are not going to be able to get him the experience and the time with the coaches needed. So really, we're just waiting until next training camp now, where this all starts again, and we wait till next year and see how he gets on in those games, and that's that. So it's very difficult. This is why I still think there has to be some kind of league or farm system or something to enable teams to give their quarterback some training, because that's it for Jalen Milroe now. I think that's why I played the full game, because apart from that, it's you're just waiting another year. But I think we have to remember here, this is a player who had a very patchy college career. He did not have a great college career. He was very up and down. I don't think I feel like I've watched enough football to sort of watch a player and think, yeah, okay, there's something there. And I've watched a lot of the rookie quarterbacks playing. Even like people like Max Brosmer, you kind of watch them and you think, yeah, there's something there. I've not seen a great deal of it. I expected to see a little bit more physically from Jalen Milroe. I'd almost would have accepted a couple of interceptions, ugly interceptions, if we also had a couple of really explosive plays in preseason to hang a hat on. And we haven't really had that. He's just not really done anything. So I just think I was hoping for a bit more. And Adam, I'll go on to the main point I made in the article that I wrote earlier in a second, but I don't know. People are going to read this as like me writing him off or being overly harsh, but I think this when you draft a quarterback, you judge them, you assess them, you decide whether or not they're going to be the answer, and if they're not, then you can't wait years and years and years to sort of like say, oh, well, we're going to give this guy 4 years. You kind of have to. Every game is an opportunity to look at it, and I can still see, like there's a guy in the comment section just won't stop complaining that I'm just sort of saying that I don't think it was very impressive last year. You have to, Adam. This is the NFL. This is the elite level. You get judged. The Seahawks can't wait forever. We're going to make a judgment every time he takes the field. I didn't think he was very good yesterday.
Yeah, well, my thunder is halfway up to Rotherham, the way you've stolen it with that comment. I was just about to say, so much what you said, it was literally at the tip of my tongue. But predominantly, I think what people need to understand, you're not necessarily criticizing Jalen Milroe, but it's that situationally now, how are we going to get him better in a year? Like where he's not going to be able to do anything, such are the reps that you don't get in practice. Like, I just don't understand. As you say, you would hope that you would be able to see enough in this preseason to hang your hat on that, watching for a year will be able to add to what we've seen, and then we can build in it next year. But I kind of feel we're going to go into next year's training camp with the levels of the building blocks sort of at the same level as we are now. And so what happens then? Because if Darnold is good, then the situation of the team is going to be fairly clear going forward. If it's not, they're going to look to draft the quarterback who's going to go in ahead of Milroe. So when's he going to play? And the other thing with him is that one thing he was sold on so heavily is the athleticism and what he can do as an athlete. But that's not going to improve. He's not going to become a better athlete over time. Whereas Jordan Love, I don't think was ever sold as a quarterback who, is an unbelievable athlete who can be a quarterback. There was always the plan that he would become better as a pocket passer. The worry with Milroe is that in 4 years' time, he might be 80% the athlete that he is now, just by, getting older. So yeah, it does feel like, there was this obsession. There's always the obsession that, this team will replicate 2011 and, Milroe's going to come in and Donald's Matt Flynn and Milroe's going to, in May, going to be the quarterback. But, all those players talk about that era being lightning in a bottle for a reason, because it doesn't happen twice. And I think it does feel like a little bit of a reality check with Milroe that there was such excitement for him after the draft and what could we see? And yeah, it kind of feels like now, well, yeah, see you in 12 months, pal, and we'll go again.
Yeah, and there's two other things I want to say with Jalen Milroe. Is one, there's been a lot of talk about have a Jalen Milroe package, get him on the field. He's too good an athlete to not have him on the field in the red zone, and then you've got to. I'm telling you, I don't want to see him on the field this year. I really don't. There were two situations yesterday in short yardage situations where he fumbled the football. I don't see the need. Like when I watched the starting offense last week dominate the Chiefs up front to the extent that they did, just running the ball conventionally, I don't need to see them get tricky and put a rookie third string quarterback on the field because he's fast or because they think he's a bit more explosive and can do a tush push or whatever. I don't need that. Like, just run. If you've got 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, just run the ball. Like you were doing that well enough last week. So I don't feel like we need to see a package. I kind of hope we're going to park that now. Like, I don't need to see him lined up at receiver and then like have Darnold throw a pass out to him and then him throw it back to Darnold or something, or some kind of trick play. I don't need that. I think he needs to go away now, learn what he can based on the limited ability he's going to have over the next year, and have another go next year, and we'll see how he gets on. Someone has said in the comment section, why waste a 3rd round pick on him then? I mean, look, it's like the 90th pick or the 92nd pick in the draft or something. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like, they should be taking chances on quarterbacks, and he is a highly athletic talent, and I definitely think he's the kind of player, especially with his personality, and he's extremely professional. I think it's definitely well worth a shot to nothing. And there's plenty of third, fourth, fifth round pick quarterbacks who come into the league and don't amount to anything. And if you can get the one, if you can get the one that really hits, you can end up with a Russell Wilson. So it's kind of like it's worth taking the shots. So I don't have any problem with the pick. Even if it doesn't work out, I won't have any problem with the pick. I think it was a decent shot at this. Definitely not writing him off, like I said. I don't know why people are reacting as if in the comments, as if I've said, cut him now. There's no point keeping him on the roster. I'm just saying. I think that was a bit of a reality check for the situation, Robbie.
That's all I've heard. I heard you say cut him now.
and we'll see you next year. That's kind of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the other point I'm going to come to, Robin, this is what I want to ask you about, because this is what I wrote today. The Seahawks, I think, are in a really good place, and I've been very positive about the Seahawks. But until we actually see the offense in a real football game, for multiple real football games, there is still a question mark at quarterback. Sam Darnold's on a short-term contract. They can get out of that deal if they want to next year. And Jalen Milroe has not shown enough in his rookie preseason camp to think, okay, there's the answer. And I don't think anybody sees Drew Lock as anything more than just a veteran backup at this point. There's a question mark at the position until there isn't. And right now, there still is. And until Darnold gets on that field and takes that question mark away, hopefully he does, maybe he will, I still think you need to be open-minded about the chance that the Seahawks might need to draft a quarterback next year. And for that reason, I don't think they are going to go anywhere near any of these big trades that people are talking about. Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons. They, I think, are going to feel like we need our stock right now, just in case. Because if you get to November and you think, this team's pretty good, but we haven't got a quarterback. And by the way, there's maybe 2 or 3 that we like in the draft. We want to be able to go and get them, either by trading up or just by taking them with the native picks. I think you have to have that stock to be able to do that. I don't think the Seahawks, unlike maybe like the Packers who we've just seen, who have paid Jordan Love and have committed to him, rightly or wrongly, they've committed to him. They have to make that work now. I think they're in a different position. And they're the team that's been linked with Parsons. I don't think Seahawks are in that position yet. I think they need to keep their picks because they have to wait and see what happens at quarterback this year. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I still think like the staff will have a better idea of kind of where they're at with the team, and if they feel that Trey Henderson, I don't think Michael Parsons. That one just doesn't seem realistic to me. But if they think Trey Henderson can come in and help this team and not give up a first but a second, I don't think they're going to look too far into the future, just being like, well, we don't know yet if Sam Darnold's going to be good. I think we'll make that a tomorrow problem if we need to and try to win now. Depends on how they feel the team's going. I don't know. It's tough for me to – I see where you're going with it. I don't know if I 100% agree, just because I think there could be a chance to pull off a trade to make the team better this year. And, I hate the sorting out the quarterback because I feel like they did a pretty good job for the most part, getting rid of Geno and stepping up and doing that. And maybe this is the time where, John actually goes. He's been extended, right? So now he does go into the draft and drafts a quarterback every single year, like he said he wanted to, and pulls the trigger on doing that. Maybe that's the time. But I see a lot of veteran quarterbacks out there. I mean, I'm just thankful we're not the Browns, not that shit show. But I don't know. You've made me really interested to go back and watch the game now, because I kind of want to see what you're seeing that I've missed. So I'm gonna have to go do that, because I didn't think I was gonna watch the game. I was like, whatever. But now I'm like intrigued.
I genuinely feel responsible now for the fact that you're going to watch something and be really miserable watching it, because it's like a bad film. Yeah. It's like if someone said to you, "This film's really bad, Robbie," and you went, "Well, I feel intrigued. I need to go and watch it."
Well, I think for me, it's more of like I want to understand where you're coming from, because I'm not really seeing like how he could have played so bad that you don't even want to see him on the field now at all, right? When I was excited about getting him on a package play and playing with the ones and some trick plays, because I think it makes the defense question, well, what are they doing? Even if it's just they're going to trick them and just run the ball anyways, it starts to make him second guess. So if we can do that and he has that athletic ability to get on the field to do so, then I want to do that. I want to see something that makes the defense question what we're doing.
That's the problem for me, is that there's two things about yesterday that made me not want that anymore. Were that, when he was in those situations where, this is a situation I can imagine him being on the field. This is where he should be. And he fumbled it twice. And then there was a third moment where it was a snap. It wasn't a perfect snap, but it's at a very catchable height and pace. And it's through his hands and he's chasing after it and stuff like that. There were just too many errors. And I really don't want the Seahawks to get into a situation, for example, where they're in the red zone, where it's a critical 3rd and 1. And all of a sudden, Jalen Milroe trots out onto the field. He fumbles the football and we're going, oh my word. Why didn't you just hand the ball off to Zach Charbonnet and let him just plow his way forward behind Gray Zabel or Anthony Bradford and get the first down? Like, there were just too many mistakes. Like the turnovers yesterday, in a weird way, it would have been better to see interceptions than that, because they were specifically short yardage situations, Robbie. It was like the quarterback's going to run with the football here on 3rd and 1. Or 4th and 1, and he's got the thing, he's got the 4th. Oh, now he's dropped the football. Like, it was stuff like that. It's like, it just makes you think. That's alarming to me. Like, he can't be in, if he's only going to be in there for short yardage runs and he's dropping the football all the time. Like, that's a problem. And then the other thing with why it was a disappointing performance for me is, look, by all means, watch it. You have been warned, right? But if you watch this game, just let me know send me a DM and let me know what you think. I just thought when he got out of the pocket and was in space, he just didn't look special as an athlete. Like, there was no wiggle. There was no making anybody miss. There was no like, he's on the run, like, watch out. Maybe Green Bay just contained so perfectly well that Lamar would have had the same issue. But when you're watching Lamar and he gets out of the pocket and you think, oh my God, watch out. Lamar's going to do something crazy here and he's going to make something happen. There was none of that from Milroe. Like, when he got out into space, he just looked pedestrian to me. He just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look decisive. He didn't look like a great athlete. And I was surprised by that, because that's the one thing I think you expect from him, was that he was going to get out there and crazy things could happen. It'd be like the Georgia game all over again. And I don't know whether it's just the NFL is just everyone's bigger and faster and more athletic, it's just not going to show up as much. But I think that was the disappointing thing for me. Adam, can I bring the same question back to you? I personally think right now, Seahawks are in a really good place. I think they're primed for a good season. I believe in Clint Kubiak a ton. I think Sam Darnold really is going to work well in this offense. I think they're going to set up a situation where he can be a very comfortable, competent starter for Seattle, the starter that perhaps they need in this system. But I also want to protect those picks, because if you get to November and you think they still need a quarterback here, like Darnold's not the answer, I don't want to be looking and thinking, crap, don't have a first rounder next year, don't have a second rounder next year, and there's these guys and I'd like to be able to go and draft them. I'd like to keep my options open for now. Do you agree with that sentiment or not?
Yeah, I think I said on the last show that we did as a trio that the Parsons deal as an overall package just felt a bit too rich for my blood, given the potential repercussions it was going to naturally put on you for the next couple of years from a trading standpoint and, a drafting standpoint. Hendrickson, I always am constantly surprised by how little these big veterans seem to go for via trade now, since he are a different beast perhaps, and maybe they will try and hold out for a pick that I consider unrealistic. But I think if there was a chance to get him for a second, I would do it, because I think there's always a way you can massage that and find a way to claw that back if you've got to pull it from 2 years' time or whatever to do that. I think overall, my biggest concern is that we just don't know when or if Darnold could completely collapse. And the way that he is as a quarterback, we could go into January being so sure that Darnold will be here next year, nothing to worry about. And then the first playoff game could happen, and we could be on our stream thinking, that's 2 years in a row now that at the biggest moment, this guy has utterly collapsed. And what are we going to do then? Because if I think everyone's fair to give him the benefit of the doubt after last year. It didn't end well with the Vikings. But if we were to see that scenario play out again, I don't know what you would do as a franchise, because, I remember when Blair Walsh missed that kickoff against Seattle. We all do. And he then signed for Seattle. And I said to my mates, he's going to do the same thing at some point. And I think it was a game at home against the then Redskins. Like, I think Colt McCoy may have won and Walsh missed 3 kicks. And you're thinking like, well, yeah, like this is what the guy is. This is what he does. And it just happens like that. And that's my concern with Darnold. Like, at least with Geno, who I'm very happy is not on the team, I think we all had an appreciation outside of the sort of 5% at either end of the discussion, what the level was that we were dealing with. And you could kind of focus going forward of what that would look like. With Darnold, my concern is that it could literally be a half of football that just changes everyone's perception. And if you go back and listen to the Rams playoff game, like Paul Allen, who's the Vikings play-by-play guy, who's the best in the business from a team guy, like you can hear in his voice how shocked he is what he's watching with Darnold. And like they didn't really fight to keep him because I think they realized that that was just the end. And my concern with the whole Darnold thing, and I'm boring myself saying it so often, is that it could just leave us in a position where we go into a game being so comfortable with what we've got and we leave it on the stream thinking we need a quarterback. What are we going to do?
And the other thing I would say, Robbie, is even if Darnold has a decent year, let's say he has a good, solid season, I wouldn't be against the Seahawks drafting a quarterback in the first round. Like you have to be. This is of all the positions. It stands to reason that if you see somebody that you like at that particular position, there's nothing wrong with adding them to the mix and saying we're gonna work with this guy as well. I mean, look, there are plenty of teams that work with 2 young quarterbacks. The Commanders, ex-Redskins, used to do it all the time. With not all the time. So what am I talking about? I've just said something there that makes no sense. They don't do it all the time at all. They did it once. They did it with Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins. They had 2 young rookie players, and as it happens, Cousins has ended up having the longer career because of the injury to Robert Griffin III. But the Browns have got a couple of rookies now. There are teams out there that will have a couple of younger players who will work with them, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with taking multiple shots at this. And I think Adam's point is right with Darnold. Like, if we're being really honest, the chance that Sam Darnold suddenly turns into an elite franchise quarterback is remote because he's already been in the league long enough to know that's not what he's going to be. The reason that I'm optimistic is because the Kubiak offense, which is similar to the Shanahan offense, it's got the same kind of DNA, has shown that the Jimmy G's and the Brock Purdy's and the Matt Ryans can get to a Super Bowl, and in the case of Matt Ryan, even win an MVP. So that there's nothing really restricted. It's the perfect offensive system, you could argue, for someone like Darnold to have more success than you otherwise would do. If Darnold was playing in Ryan Grubb's system, such as it is, or Shane Waldron's, he probably wouldn't do anything. He'd probably be a car crash. But in this system, I think he's got a chance to be successful. But Adam is right. He could do what he did in Minnesota last year. They could have 12, 13, 14 wins. We could all be sat here in January going, the Seahawks are red-hot favourites for the NFC. They're an amazing team. They've got the number 1 seed. And then he could lay an egg in the first playoff game. And then we're all just talking about that again. It's... I think you've got to keep... Until the Seahawks have got a franchise quarterback, until they have somebody who you go unquestioned, that's the guy, in the way that, say, I know, and this is going to be ridiculous, but I think it's this serious. The Bills do with Josh Allen, the Chiefs with Mahomes, the Bengals with Burrow, like a player who that's the guy. We're not even going to scout quarterbacks next year because we don't need to, because we've got a 27-year-old legit starter who could win you a Super Bowl. Until you have that guy, I think I'm going to be uncomfortable chucking a load of picks on veteran trades because I think it makes it harder to find that guy. Now, what I would say is I have no problem with them doing smart, intelligent trades, Robbie, like the Niners did with Trent Williams, 3rd-round pick, Christian McCaffrey, 2nd-round pick. I think that in the end, that one worked out. I think it was a second-round pick from McCaffrey. You know, those kind of deals. You could even say like a third rounder for Dwayne Brown back in the day with Seattle. I think that pick worked out. You know, those kind of trades, Marshawn Lynch for a fourth, they're the kind of deals that I think you should be looking for, and I think they will look for. I don't think giving up first, second round picks, though, is the way to go for this team in its current form. Your thoughts, Robbie?
Yeah, first, I want to go back to this Blair Walsh comment, Adam. That was phenomenal. Dynamite drop in there, man. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I appreciated that reference. No, yeah, I mean, I agree. Trading away first just doesn't make sense. But I am in a completely agreement with you. I think you keep drafting quarterbacks unless you have a Burrow and Mahomes and Allen. Like you keep drafting them. Even when we had Wilson, I was confused why we didn't, like have a guy in the pocket just to wait. I am not by any means giving up on Milroe. I am excited that he's going to be there as a third string guy that can come in and develop. I do kind of wish what you were saying, like having a development league would be nice, but I mean, he's going to get some scout team reps and he's still going to get to learn and hopefully get to, do some things that, in practice that he wouldn't, normally would have seen at Alabama. I did, however, while you guys were chatting, brought up the Jalen Milroe versus Packers every throw and run on YouTube and been watching it just so I could get a good vibe. And a couple of the comments here are immediately from Alabama fans that said, "Glad he's Seattle's problem, not ours." So it's going to be a good watch. I'm looking forward to it.
The other problem is someone has commented that I'm hyping my QB draft research. Like the thing is like I genuinely don't want to watch quarterbacks this year. Like I feel like ever since the Russell Wilson trade, like it was fun for a bit to watch the quarterbacks and to have big opinions, but it's the least enjoyable thing of writing Seahawks Draft Blog because, for example, if you have an opinion like, "Hey, I think John Schneider might like Quinn Ewers," I still get comments from people now saying, "You loved Quinn Ewers. You wanted them to take him in the first round." I think Will Levis will be a high pick. You thought Will Levis was going to be Patrick Mahomes. You said that you wanted him so bad. Like, forget that you had CJ Stroud as your QB1. No, you wanted Levis. It is so minor. Like the only thing you could ever do is like to avoid that is to like say, I think Tom Brady will be the greatest ever quarterback that's played the game when he's just drafted as a 6th rounder, and then everyone can just like shut up for the rest of history. Like it's not fun scouting quarterbacks. And I have to say, I have looked at the class. I did a piece. It went up on Friday night. If you missed it, go and have a look at it if you want. I'm not that excited about this quarterback class. Like to me, I think you have to look for special qualities. You have to look at unless you have, maybe they have the system. Maybe I'm talking myself out of this. Unless you have a system that just truly works. Look at Bo Nix with Sean Payton. Like Bo Nix looks totally different than he did. I'd even say at Oregon, let alone at Auburn. Like under Sean Payton, I watched the Saints. Was it the Saints against the Broncos preseason game? Yeah, it was. And Bo Nix even then's making plays in that game, and you're thinking, I didn't expect that. Like sometimes you have the right coach. You don't necessarily need the mind-blowing traits. But when I'm watching quarterbacks, I want to sort of see those traits. And when I'm watching this group, there's question marks with all of them. And that said, can I imagine the Seahawks liking Garrett Nussmeier? Yes. Drew Allard? Yes. I can imagine John Schneider liking Drew Allard. And there's one or two others that I can imagine them liking. So we'll see. But it's going to be another few months of QB watching for me, Adam. And what do you think? Do you think you have to keep taking shots, Adam? Is that a fair point? It feels as if something has become less of a talking point, the quarterback situation this year, when perhaps it should be a bigger talking point than it is, because we need to sort of see what Sam Darnold can do. And even then, like, how much of great Sam Darnold do you need to see before you know he's the answer? I'd say it's probably more than a year. Case Keenum had a great year and took Minnesota to the NFC Championship game. How would you know, even if Seattle gets the NFC Championship game, is Sam Darnold the guy for the next 6, 7, 8 years? for the next 4 years? I don't know.
I think if we got to the championship game, you'd probably park quarterbacks for another year, would be my suggestion, because it just would become not a waste of time, but if you go to the championship game, I think that guy deserves another crack at the whip. I mean, I think in the Russell Wilson days, we didn't draft quarterbacks because Russell Wilson's ego couldn't take it, and he would have flipped at the general manager even more than he already did if anyone dared take his spot. Perhaps he earned the right to have that, but I think that was pretty well discussed that, Wilson was anti real backup being brought in. But then you're right that we should be drafting them, but then you have to find a real profile of player that makes sense, because we've basically already decided that Milroe wasn't a waste of a pick at all. But from a development standpoint, the way in which he plays and wants to play, well, he's not going to be the second choice backup. So that's just a development guy for a year. He's not really been drafted with the intention to play for at least 2 years. So yes, you can keep drafting them, but are you drafting them with the intention that they're going to be, beat out Drew Lock in preseason and then maybe play next year, or what? Because we drafted for traits with Milroe, I think, but if they don't immediately show themselves as being at the level required, then you're knocking it down a year. If you draft just, a statue pocket passer, is that really going to give you the quality going forward as a future starter, or is that just another Drew Lock? So it's probably quite a hard one to do, drafting deliberately for backup, unless you are in a position where you get lucky and you stumble across the guy at 16 that you are just in love with. It's difficult to know. You've got to find a bit of a unicorn player that's worth drafting every year, I think.
Yeah, I think luck is the biggest thing with this. It is luck to a large extent. I think the Seahawks were lucky that Russell Wilson was there for them. The Patriots were lucky with Tom Brady. Like, if the Patriots knew Tom Brady was going to be Tom Brady, they'd have taken him in the first round, not the sixth. Like, look at Jaden Daniels. The Commanders had to be, one, bad enough to pick second overall, and two, had to have the whole kind of league convinced that Caleb Williams was the next Patrick Mahomes in order for Jaden Daniels to last to the second overall pick so that they could take him. And I have to say, we'll see with Cam Ward. But, a year later, the Titans end up picking first overall, and they're looking at the board and going, there isn't anybody. So we'll just take Cam Ward, who nobody thought was the best player in the draft, but we'll just take him because he's the best quarterback available to us. Like, it is often about luck rather than judgment. I think the one great example of judgment over luck is the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs trading up from the 20s to 10th overall or 12th, whatever it was, to go and get Patrick Mahomes with a plan. I mean, that their GM or there was the story that they watched him in high school or something and said, "I've just found the player we're going to draft in 4 years' time," or something like that. There was some crazy story that may be fake. I mean, who knows? But that was an aggressive, we are going to go and get that guy. And oh, by the way, they've gone and got the guy and made him the probably on track to be the best quarterback that's ever played the game. So I think you have to give credit to that. Someone's pointed out Lamar Jackson lasting to 32nd overall. That's lucky that the Ravens did that. Now they went up and got Lamar, so you have to give them credit as well. But the fact that he was even there is fortunate. And that was wasn't that the year that Josh Rosen went like 12th overall or something? So the Cardinals took him there, and Lamar lasts to 32 because his mum was his agent and was a bit of a nightmare to deal with. Like, make it make sense. That's where we're at. So they do need a bit of luck, and we've kind of just got to hope that if it isn't going to be Darnold, like long term, and let's hope it is, that they've stumbled into a situation where they can be lucky again in the future. Anyway, I feel like we've done 40 minutes on this. Like, that's just crazy. So let's just do a couple of super chats and we'll move on to a different topic. Martin says, we set our rookie QB up for failure, and given who the Packers started, the game was a total waste of time. How the quarterback coach calling plays. Yep, there's definitely some truth to that, Martin. I want to say they set him up for failure, but it was not. It is true that it was a difficult environment for him, and they didn't even have Clint Kubiak calling the plays. So that is true. And Nano says, around on me in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you very much, Nano. Appreciate that. Burnside bourbon or rye. I'm always up for trying a new bourbon, so I'll give that a bash. I'll make a note of that after the stream. And he says he will get you next time, Adam. So there you go. Yes, Robbie, we will be.
I'll be there at the Texans game on the 20th of October, Monday Night Football. I'll be there.
So it is, 2 weeks right now, Robbie? We'll be sat in Lumen Field.
That's
right now.
Yeah.
We'll be sat next to each other, hopefully enjoying a handsome win.
Yeah, love it.
Or if not, that Burnside bourbon might be
drinking our sorrows away. That $30 will go fast.
How much is a bottle of it?
Yeah.
So yes, we'll be very much looking for. I can't wait to get out there. I'm absolutely desperate to get out there and enjoy that. And hopefully the Mariners will have got over this little slump that they're in by the time we get out there, and we'll be watching that as well. So very much looking forward to that. So we are going to soon find out the cuts from the Seahawks. The teams are going to. We're seeing teams already announce who is going to be leaving and moving on. I wanted to share this. So Brady Henderson has done a roster projection that when I read it earlier, I couldn't find anything that I disagreed with. So I'm going to share it with the screen so that we can just have a quick chat about that. So here we go. Right then, let's zoom into this bit so everyone can see it. Right. So he has said, a bit bigger. Can everybody read that okay? Yeah, that's okay. So we'll cut out the obvious ones. If I'm on the wrong bloody screen, here we go. So it's obvious, isn't it? Darnold, Locke, and Milroe are all going to make the team. I noticed that Pete Carroll said that he is after an experienced veteran quarterback in desperate need because Aidan O'Connell's got injured, but there's no way the Seahawks are going to trade Drew Lock. That's not happening. So those three are going to be the three. I think this is right with the running backs. Do you guys agree with that? Charbonnet, Walker, Alani, and Oost. I can't pronounce that name properly. Like it does to me. That reads as Oost. That's really awkward to say. But on the
you've got to just ignore the Z.
That's it. Get rid of the Z. Get out of town. Like it has no business being in that name. But then I suppose if it wasn't there, it would be Outs, Robbie Outs. And yet it's going to be Robbie Inns in this projection. That's such a dad joke. But Robbie, do you agree with that? Charbonnet, Walker, Alani's been the best, hasn't he, of the other guys?
I think there's a way that Martinez may sneak onto the roster as well. Maybe. Let me see who else they got. But
I don't know. I think he's been that bad. I keep saying people are going to hammer me for this now as well. Oh, Damien Martinez is terrible too. Like he's not impressed enough for me to be picked up by another team. So I think you can get him on the practice squad. So I think they're the four. And look, to be honest, they could probably get Halani. Like I don't think the league's desperately racing out to go and get running backs, but you need three on the roster. So I think Alani's won that job. You all right with that, Rob? With Adam, do you think is that the four, or do you have a different take?
No, that's sensible. You're not the only person that's been giving Martinez some sticks, so I think that feels very, very fair, to be honest.
And then with the receivers, this is the one I disagree with Brady. I think they're going to keep Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think they're going to keep him on the roster. If Curtis is on the stream and wants to correct me on this, then please feel free. Or if anybody else wants to. I think it's something like a $1 million saving if you cut him now. So that's not enough. He's still going to spend like $3 million for him to go away. So I think you might as well have him on the roster. See, because you've got a lot of youth on there, and he is somebody who's played in the NFL and has had success in this offense. I think you keep him on the roster, and if 2 or 3 weeks down the line he's not getting the business done, you look to get rid of it. You maybe move on then. I just think for now he's going to make the roster. I think he's going to make the cut. I suspect it might be at the expense of somebody else, or it may be that someone like Derek Young doesn't make it. I don't know. But for me, I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling will get there. I don't think he has any trade value. I know people are trying to, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't see, like, people are going, oh, the Vikings need a. Why the hell would the Vikings want to trade for Marquez Valdes? They want someone like Adam Thielen. They don't want Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So I don't think there's any value there. So I think he's going to make the roster. And it may be that someone like Derek Young just is on the practice squad. You can always call Derek Young up from the practice squad. You can still do that. And is somebody else going to pick him up? Maybe someone like Pete Carroll would pick him up. I don't know. But maybe they'll roll the dice on that one. I don't think Derek Young's that good that you kind of have to have him on the roster at all costs. So I think MVS will make it. Someone has said Cody White. Cody White played very well yesterday. So he's made a late push as well. Robbie, any thoughts on the receiver position?
I mean, I actually really like Derek Young, so I want to keep him. So I like this 5 that he's kept.
Adam?
Or 6, whatever it is.
No, it's 5. Yes, people.
Yeah, I didn't like the Valdes-Scantling signing at the time. I think I said on either on here or to Curtis that he just strikes me as a guy that's just going to cost us some money when he eventually gets cut, because he's not shown anything to really legislate being paid what he got. I feel like if you don't like him enough, then it's not enough money to really worry about. Like, if we're not going to make a big trade, then there's plenty of money there, and I think you should carry your best 5. If there's not much in it, then maybe you keep the experienced guy who is nominally the outside burner. But yeah, I wouldn't shock me if he was cut at all.
So that's the receiver position. Tight ends, I think this is pretty straightforward here. You know, Barner, Arroyo, and Sorbert are going to make it. I think Brady Russell's a lock. I think he's definitely going to make it because of the special teams value. He is. Maybe he could be Adam's new BFF on the 53-man roster. Have you got a vacancy there, Adam, for somebody who could be your BFF on the roster?
Well, I mean, it should be fullback to fullback. Really, it should be my guy Oots. Linebacker, fullback hybrid, special teamer could be.
But Russell has played some fullback, Adam. So
true.
He could be the next Ballor. So
He could be. I'll follow him and watch him play in Madrid in 10 years' time. Then I look forward to it.
Well, I think Robbie, is that how you see it? I think Russell's going to make it because the special teams value, as Brady notes here, is just it's important for them.
Yeah, I think this 4 makes total sense.
So now one of the more interesting ones, the offensive line. Brady's got them going with 10 offensive linemen. Cross, Zabel, Sundell, Bradford, and Lucas obviously going to make it, as is Josh Jones, the primary backup for tackle position. Olu Oluwatimi, if his back is okay, will make the roster, you'd imagine. Bryce Campbell was poor yesterday. He's not had a great preseason. It is a bit disappointing, but he is a rookie and he's been asked to switch position. So we will see. But I don't think they're going to give up on Bryce Campbell just yet. Michael Jarrell played a bit yesterday. I'm not as sure on that. I mean, I know that they have to have a tackle, but part of me wonders a little bit whether the fact that they had the visit with the guy whose name I have completely forgotten, because as I get older, my memory is Risner. Dalton Risner. The fact that they had Dalton Risner in for a visit, or are going to have him in for a visit, I think speaks to their desire to have a little bit more experience and depth. And I just wonder a little bit whether the Jarrells, is there an experienced tackle out there that they could bring in to be a backup instead? You know, Brady notes that he thinks a veteran will be brought in who is not currently on the roster. By the way, this is the most connected person imaginable to sort of make that kind of projection. So whether that's Risner or somebody else, it does seem likely. I think the idea here, he says it at the end, that because Christian Haynes is dealing with a pectoral injury, they could place him on IR, and that would effectively mean that they can just protect him for now and decide what they want to do with him down the road. So that's it. Obviously, I think we all know who the starters are going to be week 1. Adam, are you concerned by the depth here, though? because it wouldn't take much to really disrupt this, would it? A couple of injuries, and all of a sudden your Campbell Dews and your Haynes might be starting, and this could go back to how it was before. Would you like to see them try and go and get a Risner, maybe even another veteran to add to this group, just so you've got a bit of a couple of greybeards in the backup there to potentially come in if needed?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I was sort of begging them to do more of this in the off season anyway. Look, I think as Seahawk fans, if we're worried about offensive line depth, at least that's a step up from worrying about the offensive line over the last 3 years. So I'll sort of semi-take worrying about the depth if we think we're okay on the actual line to start with. Baby steps, I suppose. But yeah, it might be nice to have a couple of guys on there that if we, when the inevitable injuries do happen, we don't feel like the whole thing's going to implode in on itself because we've not got the guys.
Robbie, thoughts on the prospect of different players being brought in to provide some depth?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing in any additional guys to help the squad out. I think in our last pod, I did say something about, feeling like we actually had a little bit of depth prior than we had in prior seasons. So, looking at this, I'm actually thinking, well, we got guys that could actually come in and maybe play multiple positions for a game or two should we need them to. Do I want them to? No, but like I feel good like with that, and then bringing in, an additional veteran player.
Defensive linemen. So these are defensive tackles, really. Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, all locks. Interestingly, he's gone with Brandon Peely. So he's got Jonathan Hankins, who hasn't really been involved at all, not making it. And Mike Morris, who has kind of re-emerged. And this is the interesting one for me because Brady's been talking up the chances of Morris making this roster for a while now. And yet Jared Ivey is the one who has had more of an impact here. I would have thought that he might be more likely to make it. Like Jared Ivey is the kind of player that will get, I think, picked up by another team with the way that he's played in preseason. And if they really like Mike Morris that much, is there not a way to keep both of them? Possibly. Is there another player that you cut? I wonder if they don't keep as many safeties, for example, as Brady has got here. And we're going to get to the safety position later. I just wonder whether or not Mike Morris and Jared Ivey make the team and they carry one less defensive back in order to protect them. Because like I say, I always feel like with the Seahawks, it's about they want to keep who they want to keep. And if they can keep someone on the practice squad and then protect somebody else, they'll do it. That's what I think they're going to do here. So I think Ivey will make it. And on Peely, he really impressed against the Chiefs. And when he got that safety, the whole team went crazy. So I just think there's something there with that guy. And he mentions, Brady, that Quinton Bahana could also make it. There's something with Peely that just is appealing. And Hankins can't go on forever. And he didn't have an amazing year last year. So I'm all for giving the young guy a shot here. Any thoughts on any of that, Adam?
No, I found my eyes sort of drifting down one column to outside linebackers and not being that thrilled with what I'm reading. Look, I think Byron Murphy is probably the anchor that's going to make or break whether that is a really successful group. I think we know what we got in Leonard Williams. We know what we got in Jaron Reed. Murphy's the guy that we really need to step up. And I think in year 2, you probably can expect, it's not unfair to expect that your draft position shows up on your play. But yeah, I'm looking at that next group with a little bit of trepidation, I have to say.
So before we jump ahead, Robbie, your thoughts? What do you make of Brady's list?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Mike Morris is, we both really liked him coming out of college, right, from Michigan. I think this is a guy, if he could really turn it on, this is a player that could be a difference maker. I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully this is one of the reasons why. But yeah, I like Peely, and I think I think this does make sense. I also agree with Adam. I think Byron Murphy is the kind of the anchor there that's going to kind of tell how far this defensive line can go.
Yeah.
Can he take a step forward this year?
Well, right? Hope so.
Yeah.
I think Ivy's going to make it. Like he's just shone too. It's not often you get defensive linemen who shine as much as he has. I'd be a little bit surprised if he didn't make the team. Outside linebackers then. So this is the list that's got Adam a little concerned. Chenna Nwosu is back on the field, but who knows how close he is to actually being able to play. DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, Tyreek Smith. So, as Brady mentions here, he says they've kept an eye on Jadeveon Clowney, who's still without a team, and they had interest in Von Miller before he signed with the Commanders. So, it's all going to depend on where they are with Nwosu. If he can play, I think you've got 4 rushers there that are reliable, that can get the job done, and Tyreek Smith, who's flashed a bit in preseason as a player that I like coming into the league. I think as a backup who can just spell a few reps, that is absolutely fine as effectively the 5th man of this 5, who may not even be active on game day, to be quite honest. But if Nwosu's not there, how do we feel about Lawrence, Hall, Maffei, and Smith having to get the job done here and go and get somebody else in? So Adam's already voiced a bit of concern. Robbie, what do you think about this collective group? I'm not as concerned because I think DeMarcus Lawrence is going to have a big year. I think Derek Hall's going to take a step forward. I think we know what Boye Mafe is right now. He's not going to be a star pass rusher, but I think he could be a specialist rushing the passer. What do you think of that group?
I'm good with the group. I think I really want to see what I've heard a lot about Derek Hall this offseason and how well he's playing and how well he stepped up. I want to see him translate that into the regular season. And if that's the case, then I feel pretty good about it. I do think there's probably going to be a veteran signed, though, at some point.
So, Adam, how are you feeling about adding somebody? Because I've kind of said I don't want them to trade for anybody. I don't think they will trade for anybody. But if the only option is Jadeveon Clowney, like is there enough juice left in that orange to want to bring Jadeveon Clowney back?
For me, he would sit in the Nwosu and Lawrence category of, you know what they might be able to do if everything is completely right, but it wouldn't take an awful lot for them to be non-factors. I mean, Lawrence is clearly a good guy. They love the fit. Personality-wise, I'm not convinced he's, necessarily a 17-game, wrecker. Nwosu, who's barely played for almost 2 years now. I think I'm right in saying I don't think he played much 2 years ago either. So that's a concern. Look, again, the names read fine until you actually have to see them play. And I just worry it might be a lot of pressure on Hall and Maffei, who have been good 3-year players, but I don't think anyone was clambering to give them a contract, for example, because we've got to get these guys signed up. So they're both maybe both being in contract years, I think, will help the situation. We'll get the best out of them. But I don't know. I can just see that group, whilst the names, I could see it being a non-factor without too much having to go wrong there.
Linebacker is the position that I think gives me the most concern because Tyrese Knight has been hurt, and then you have Patrick O'Connell and Drake Thomas. Now, people imply that the team are quite high on those 2 players. I don't really want to. I don't want them to be playing meaningful football this year. I've kind of never understood. Seattle's confused me with the linebacker position because they once said they didn't want KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner. This is about 10 years ago, playing 100% of the snaps because that's what they were doing every season. So they wanted to bring linebacker in, and that they felt that was an important position. They didn't do anything with it for a couple more years, maybe 3 more years after saying that. Then they spent a 1st-round pick on linebacker and were like all in, and then brought KJ Wright back anyway. And it was like, Christ, how many linebackers do you need? Now, how much investment do we need to see? We're paying Bobby Wagner $18 million a year, KJ Wright however much he was on, and now you've brought in Jordan Brooks. Like they went from one extreme to the other, and now it feels as they've gone back to the other extreme, whereby they have 2 starters who I think most people feel that's a competent pairing of Jones and Knight, especially if Knight can continue to develop. It's only his 2nd year in the league. But given Knight has had an injury issue all offseason, and Jones has had some injury, he's had surgery not that long ago, I don't know enough about Patrick O'Connell and Drake Thomas to really feel like, wow, this is the kind of quality depth that they need here, Robbie. It's confusing me a little bit why they haven't drafted more players at this position. There have been players in the draft. You think, just take a chance on that guy. There were players who fell in the draft this year. You think, well, why don't you just take one of them? Just players that have got something about them. I was even looking around the league to see, is there anybody that you could trade for? Like the Bengals, for example, drafted 2 young linebackers this year. Would they consider giving away Logan Wilson, who was on a lot of money that they could save to then give that to Trey Hendrickson? Do you know what I mean? Like something like that. And I don't think he would be, you wouldn't be giving up like a 3rd round pick for, 4th, 5th round pick for someone like Logan Wilson to get him in and sort of feel like, okay, that's just solidified things now. I just feel I would feel a lot more confident if they had just one other veteran in there. That feels like a light group to me.
Yeah, and this may be one of the times where they are either, you're right, like either looking at someone to trade for or maybe try to pick up another veteran that they want to bring in. But yeah, the linebacker position has been very confusing. I don't know what else to really say about it. I feel okay if Tyrese Knight is not as injured as they say, and he can come back and play sooner. But we'll see on that.
Adam?
Yeah, I've not got anything original to say on that. I think you've covered it pretty well.
Cornerbacks then. Witherspoon, Woolen, they're going to make it. I think most people expect Job and Griffin to make it. Nehemiah Pritchett has done as much as I think can be expected. I don't think he's ever going to turn into an legit NFL starter. I think he's always going to be like a depth piece. But he's done enough this offseason to think he's going to make the team. There's nothing that surprising about what's been said there. And then the specialists we're not going to get into because obviously that's just a given what's going to happen there. Safeties, Love, Bryant, and Emanwari are going to make it. I found it really interesting that Brady Adam keeping 5 safeties. 5. I don't know. I'm not sure DeAnthony Bell and Tyre Carter are going to make it. And this is why I think one of those 2 will be Jared Ivey. I think maybe one of them make it, and that's that. So I think it'll be Bell or Akada, and Jared Ivey will make the roster. Any thoughts there, fellas? I know we're kind of at the back end here.
My only thought on that would just be like maybe these guys, he kept them for a simple fact that they could play probably a little bit better on special teams. Would be my only guess.
Yeah, and that's important. It's just, I don't know. Do you need both of those guys? Like if Love, Bryant,
you might if you need to improve the special teams, and we were complaining after first preseason game about the special teams. So yeah, I think that's something to be considered.
They'd have to believe that Tyre Carter's a quality player on special teams. I think. Yeah. Because I think he would make the. Is someone going to take him? I mean, maybe they would. He had that great play of the weekend. So maybe they would. Same with DeAnthony Bell. Is it really that hard to get these guys onto the practice squad? I don't know. So I'd hate to lose Jared Ivey somewhere else and him like go on and have a decent career. So difficult decisions to make there, but there we go. There's not a lot of problematic areas there, and I think Brady did a very good job with that piece. So there we are. I think that's pretty much it. We have had one last super chat that's come in. So WA Washington Fish Quest says, "Great show as always, gents. With the wide receivers, could you start Bobo on the pup with a concussion and get 4 MVS games to see how it goes? Potentially, I just wonder whether they're more likely to do that with Torrey Horton if his injury is lingering. Like, how bad is that injury that he's not come back? So if Horton's a doubt, they might do that. I don't know how long the concussion will keep Bobo out. I get the sense they want Bobo for special teams and that they kind of like Jake Bobo and think he's got a role to play here. Any thoughts, fellas? I think they're going to, unless Horton's that bad, I think they're going to have to just make a call on this and decide how badly they want Derek Young.
Yeah, I think Bobo, there was a bit of chatter about him that shocked me that maybe he wouldn't make the team, but he seems to have had a good enough preseason to legislate being in the team. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that if you can try and smuggle a player like MBS into the roster back, and you can watch him play for a bit to see if you've got anything. It's not a bad way to look at it. But again, do you want to lose someone for 4 or 5 weeks? They have to be on the pup. The pup one always confuses me when you go on, whether you can't play. I always find it a bit of a tricky one to understand versus IR. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like a pretty sensible way to do it if you feel the need. If you can't get 5 playing at the start, then that seems a very sensible way to do it.
Robbie, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with Adam on that.
So there we go. We'll see what happens. It's never dull. I can't imagine the next 2 weeks are going to be quiet. But if anything big happens, we'll obviously come together and talk about it. But 2 weeks to go. 2 weeks, and then the Seahawks football will be back. I've absolutely no idea, by the way, how Robbie and I are going to get to some kind of post-game reaction thing, but there will be one. There'll be in some way, shape, or form. There will be one. I hope, Robbie, we're in celebration.
Yeah, and no promises that either one of us will be in good shape. No promises.
What's the weather like in Seattle in early September?
I'll be fine.
What do I need to pack?
It was glorious last year. I was there for the opening day, and it was like shorts and shirt, like short sleeve shirt. Where it was wildly good. I've never experienced Seattle like that. It was insane.
Okay, so it's going to be warm. It needs to be warm then.
Should be, yeah.
I've only ever been to Seattle when it's cold, so I need to pack accordingly, do I?
It's like the perfect time of the year to go.
Okay. Well, that's 2 weeks away. I'll be out in Seattle in about 10 days. About 10 days. Yeah, 10, 11 days. I'll be out there in Seattle. So very much looking forward to it. I like the fact that Mike's just replied, pack everything, Rob. Could be rain, could be warm. Just like the UK. Perfect. Right then, big thank you to Adam and to Robbie. If you big thank you to everyone who sent the super chat in as well. If you haven't liked the video already, please do. If you haven't subscribed, please do. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. I've put a bit more of my thoughts on the quarterback situation on there as well in an article today, so go and check that out. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye for now.